One dark night, Cameron and Janice Hooker sneak into a forest, a body with them. Janice is scared, holding tightly to her rosary, worrying about what they've done. Cameron tells her it's just an accident, trying to calm her down, and they leave in a hurry. Fast forward a year, and Colleen Stan is thumbing a ride from Oregon to California, excited to see her friend. She gets lucky when the Hookers stop and offer her a ride to Westwood. She hops in, unaware of what's to come. As they drive, the Hookers find out Colleen's friend isn't waiting for her, which piques their interest. At a gas stop, while Colleen's in the bathroom, Cameron sneakily puts a wooden box in the back of the car. He then suggests they check out some ice caves on the way, and Colleen, though hesitant, agrees. But when they reach a secluded spot near the caves, things take a scary turn. Colleen's heart races as Cameron suddenly pulls a knife on her. He blindfolds her, handcuffs her, and shoves her into the car, her head stuck in the wooden box. As darkness falls, they arrive at the Hookers' house in Red Bluff. What happens next is terrifying. Cameron forces Colleen to undress, ties her up, and whips her, all while Janice just stands there, watching. This violence seems to thrill Cameron, and he even shares a close moment with Janice. Then, he tells Janice to get another box, making it clear that Colleen's nightmare is far from over. The next morning, Janice, feeling uneasy, asks Cameron what they're going to do with Colleen. Cameron casually says they'll let her go someday, but you can tell he's not really sure. Janice is left alone in the house, trying to pray, but Colleen's crying from the other room breaks her heart. She goes to Colleen with a shotgun, trying to be tough, but deep down, she's shaken by Colleen's begging to be set free. Still, Janice doesn't let her go. That evening, when Cameron comes home, he doesn't show any kindness. He gives Colleen some food but then hurts her again. Janice, unable to bear the sound of Colleen's pain, puts on headphones to drown it out. They talk about what to do with Colleen. Janice is scared Colleen might tell the police about them, so Cameron decides to keep her hidden in the basement. He twists things around, reminding Janice of their wedding vows and even talks about starting a family, while still using Colleen in their twisted games. Janice, desperate, makes Cameron promise not to get too close to Colleen. Cameron locks Colleen in a tiny, dark box, barely bigger than a coffin. Inside, Colleen dreams of being free again, wondering how she ended up in this nightmare. Meanwhile, her parents are getting really worried. They haven't heard from her and have no idea where she is. They report her missing, hoping to find her soon. Months go by, and things at the Hookers' house take a strange turn. Janice, now expecting a baby, thinks maybe it's time to let Colleen go, especially with the baby coming. But Cameron won't hear of it. He's scared the police will find out what they've done. After Janice has knee surgery, their landlord wants to check the furnace, but Cameron keeps making excuses. Then Cameron gets this crazy idea from a magazine called Hammered. He finds something about a slave contract and decides to trick Colleen even more. He lies to her, saying he's part of some scary slave trading company. He makes her believe her family will be in danger if she tries to run away. Janice, who really wants a baby, goes along with his horrible lies. Cameron forces Colleen to sign this fake contract, making her believe she's his property, so she can't leave. He even changes her name to Kay and puts a collar on her. He starts training her to follow their commands like she's some kind of pet. Janice sees Cameron doing things to Kay that aren't right, but he says it's just part of the training. Kay finds a Bible while she's cleaning, but Janice gets mad and makes her do even more work. The landlord keeps asking about the furnace, and Cameron gets so annoyed that he decides they should move to a new place. Then, it's time for Janice's baby to be born. They name her Amber. Cameron's the only one there to help Janice give birth. All this time, Kay is locked up in the wooden box. She only gets a quick glimpse of the baby before Cameron puts her back in the box. A year after they move to a new place, something small but significant happens during dinner. Janice notices that Kay forgot to put a fork at her place. She quickly gets mad, accusing Kay of being lazy and lying. Janice tells Cameron that Kay needs to be punished, and he agrees, ending up whipping Kay. But then, Janice finds the missing fork on the floor. She feels terrible, realizing she was too quick to judge Kay harshly. The next day, Cameron tries to scare Kay with a story about another slave who got hurt trying to run away. He tells her she should feel lucky to be with them, which is pretty twisted. A few days later, Cameron takes off Kay's collar and puts her in regular clothes. He even lets her go outside to help him gather firewood in the mountains. Kay can't believe she's outside and asks if she can go home. Cameron says no, but he lets her write a letter to her family. While they're out, Cameron accidentally hurts himself with an axe. Kay thinks about running away but decides to stay and help him instead. When they get back, Kay helps Cameron with his injury, but this makes Janice jealous, so she takes over. That night, things get even more messed up. Janice tries to be close to Cameron, but he's not interested. Janice starts to worry that Cameron cares more about Kay than her. Then, Cameron suggests something really awful, that they both use Kay. Janice agrees, but she's not happy about it. When Cameron tries to get Kay involved with them, Janice can't stand it. She gets really upset and storms out, telling Cameron to put Kay back in the box. It's clear things are getting more and more out of control in their twisted world. 3 years have passed, and Kay is still trapped in the hooker's world. One day, she has a brief moment with Amber, the hooker's daughter, who's grown a lot since Kay last saw her. This moment hits Kay hard, making her realize just how long she's been held captive. Then, something scary happens. The hookers go off to Lake Tahoe, leaving Kay alone in her box. But the box's ventilation system breaks, and Kay starts to see things that aren't there because of the heat. She imagines talking to her sister and even an angel, trying to find some reason in all the pain she's going through. When the family gets back, Cameron freaks out because he can't find Kay. He eventually finds her hiding behind the shower, holding onto a Bible. Kay makes up a story about why the box is broken. Later, Cameron thinks about what Kay said and writes notes in his Bible about slaves having to obey their masters. He then talks Janice into thinking of Kay as part of their family, using the Bible to say it's okay to have more than one wife. Janice just goes along with it, hoping it might make things better between them. After that, Cameron lets Kay out of the box. He gives her food but then hurts her again. When he's gone, Janice and Kay sit down and read the Bible together. They talk about Sarah and Hagar from the Bible, trying to make sense of their own messed up situation. Janice even starts calling Kay by her real name and asks Kay to call her January. It's a small change, but it shows how their relationship is starting to shift. 5 more years drag on, and things get even weirder with Cameron. He starts acting like Kay is his wife and even talks about marrying her and having kids together. Kay is scared and confused. She asks if she can see her family, but Cameron makes up more lies about the made-up company and their rules. One day, they have a deep talk about Cameron's obsession with tying people up. Kay bravely asks him what he would do if someone did the same things to his daughter, Amber. This question makes Cameron really mad, and he punishes Kay by sending her back to the dreaded box. During this time, something starts changing between Janice and Kay. They go to church together, and a sermon about sin hits Janice hard. She's shaken up, and Kay is there to comfort her. It's like they're slowly becoming friends, or at least allies. Janice is getting sick of Cameron's cruel ways, and she's also worried about what all this might mean for little Amber. A year later, Cameron tells Kay she can finally visit her family. She's so happy she can hardly believe it. But Cameron has one more twisted game to play. He gives Kay a shotgun and tells her to put it in her mouth and pull the trigger. Kay is terrified, but she does it. Thankfully, the gun doesn't go off. After this horrible moment, Cameron says Kay can write to her family about visiting them. The next day, Cameron drives Kay to her parents' house. He keeps warning her to act normal because he's made up this story about them being watched by a fake company. Kay, scared and confused, introduces Cameron as her boyfriend, Mike, to her family. Her parents are so happy to see her, but her sister Bonnie can tell something's not right. Bonnie tries to find out what's been going on with Kay, but Kay is too afraid to tell the real story. On the day Kay is supposed to go back with Cameron, he tells her parents they're planning to get married. This news gets a mixed reaction. Bonnie gets even more suspicious when Cameron says they live in California, which doesn't match up with what Kay told her about living in Oregon. Back at Cameron and Janice's place, Cameron talks about actually marrying Kay and having kids with her. The next morning, Kay finds Janice packing up her stuff. At first, Janice says she's just visiting her parents, but then she admits she's leaving Cameron for good. She leaves with her dad and her daughter, Amber, and Cameron is left all alone and upset. Cameron's really angry now. He takes it out on Kay, forcing her to take off her clothes. He takes her down to a basement in his shack and creepily says someone else will be joining her soon. He leaves her there, scared and alone. Meanwhile, Janice is in a church, praying really hard by herself. It's like everything is falling apart, and Kay is caught in the middle of it all. Down in the cold, damp basement, Kay shivers and waits, feeling hopeless. Then, out of nowhere, Janice comes back and frees her. But that's not all. Janice drops a bombshell. She confesses that before Kay, there was another girl, Marlitz, whom they had kept captive. The story gets darker. Cameron had killed Marlitz, and they had buried her body together. Kay is stunned and scared by this news. It's like a nightmare that just got worse. Just as Cameron is coming back, probably to deal with Kay in the shack, Janice does something unexpected. She helps Kay get to a bus stop. There, Janice finally tells Kay the truth. The company they kept talking about doesn't exist. It was all a lie to keep Kay scared and under control. Janice tells Kay to get on the bus and finally be free. Kay can hardly believe it, but she gets on the bus, leaving her horrible past behind. Cameron arrives too late and is left alone, filled with despair. In the end, Cameron has to answer for what he's done. He gets sent to prison for 104 years. Janice gets a deal: she won't be charged if she testifies against Cameron. Even though she was part of what happened to Marlitz, whose body was never found, she walks free. The police say that Kay, whose real name is Colleen, was held captive for 2,640 days, that's 7 long years. Colleen says it was her faith that kept her going through all those terrible times, and in the end, it's what saved her.